Al for that warm introduction. He's exactly right. I may be leaving the United States Congress, but I'm not leaving the fight. I'm in it for the long haul, as you are too. God bless you all. So I'm grateful to be here. I'm sure the last couple of weeks you've all been following Hillary Clinton's book tour. It's been a tour de force, as the media has been telling us. She's made so many unforced errors in the last 2 weeks that Barack Obama is actually seriously considering making her his new vice president. But believe it or not, Hillary Clinton and I actually do have a lot in common. Both of us were members of the United States Congress and have served there. We are both, as Ralph told you, the only two women to have ever participated in a presidential debate. She on the Democrat side, me 15 times on the Republican side, and I'm very proud of that. I made a distinct contribution in that effort because many of the men that were on the stage with me, believe it or not, weren't for the full-scale repeal of Obamacare. That was my signature issue, and by the time we were through this process, every one of the male candidates adopted that position, and I'm extremely proud of that. But probably most importantly, both Mrs. Clinton and myself are obsessed over by MSNBC by various reasons. Interestingly, as we see today, the Obama ship is sinking, and it already feels like it's December 2016 because his presidency is virtually over. We can say amen to that. The president's approval ratings are at an all-time low, even in my left-leaning state of Minnesota. And why is that? Because the American people simply do not trust him. And it's not hard to figure out why. Because by some weird freak coincidence, the IRS just announced that they mysteriously missed 2 years of emails from people central to the scandal investigation. And apparently, it is not an obstruction of justice when your Attorney General believes that the laws of the land apply to only one political party. The VA is now failing the greatest generation, in particular our wonderful World War II veterans, while still managing to give themselves huge bonuses while they were busy cooking the books. As has been said to you by your previous speakers, our religious liberties are virtually under full-scale attack every day of the week from every quarter, as well as our First Amendment rights of free speech. President Barack Obama's legacy will be, and I predicted this a year ago, the establishment of lawlessness in the United States of America, especially when it comes to the issue of rewriting Obamacare. That's his legacy. That is not our legacy. And we are going to fight back at every turn on his establishment of lawlessness in the United States. It's not who we are. We're for the rule of law, and unashamedly so. Here's the understatement of the year. The United States border is not secure. Thousands of illegals are pouring over America's southern border. In fact, it's even being reported that hundreds of illegal aliens by the hour are surging across the United States southern border. And that is with no resistance from our government, and that's just here in the United States. But hey, let's spend our time talking about a football mascot. That's what's really important to a lot of the Democrat senators and to our president. I serve on the Intelligence Committee. We deal with the classified secrets of our nation. We deal with the threat of worldwide terrorism across the globe. And if you scan the globe, it's clear that we are living in profoundly dangerous times, unlike anything any of us have seen in the course of our lifetimes. But we have a president and a former Secretary of State who think that releasing 5 of the Taliban's top operational leaders poses virtually no national security risk to the people of the United States of America. I beg to differ with that assessment. And that includes our former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, who reinforces daily to the American people that she is not commander-in-chief material. She fails to inspire confidence in practically anything that she's touched, and her record as Secretary of State, including her utter abject failure in Benghazi, should disqualify her from ever being considered for the presidency. Mrs. Clinton has to explain to the American people why she repeatedly ignored request after request for increased security in the Benghazi mission compound. She has to explain to the American people why, when Americans were under attack, she failed to pick up the phone and call the commander-in-chief and demand that he send in military reinforcements to rescue our brave Americans on the ground. She has to answer why she repeatedly, for weeks after this horrific tragedy, continued to blame an internet video that she said hatefully insulted the Prophet Muhammad, when just recently she said in an interview that we knew from the beginning that it was Ahmed Abdul Khattab, who was just weirdly picked up on Sunday. She said that we knew that he was a part of this process even that night. You see, she can't keep her story straight. And even though the media obsesses on her, it's time for a real interview, and that interview will come with accountability from the American people. But let's review where Hillary Clinton's foreign policy has gotten us today in the United States. Terrorists are on the march in Iraq. It was last week, this morning, when we woke up and found out that the worst of the worst, terrorists so brutal, so violent, that even Al-Qaeda has renounced them. They are called ISIS or ISIL. These terrorists virtually in a blitzkrieg took over 1/3 of Iraq in a stunning display where they have taken not only American tanks, American trucks, American high-powered weapons, they're also now reportedly taking over chemical weapon caches as well. This is a direct result of the foreign policy failures of Barack Obama and Hillary Rodham Clinton. Russian tanks are rolling into the Ukraine. That happened just 1 week ago today. Iran is continuing unimpeded its nuclear weapons program. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Recognize Iran will have a nuclear weapon unless we have a new commander-in-chief who understands and appreciates this risk and stops the nuclear program from Iran. Brutal terrorists are actively killing Christians in Syria today. The Islamic terror organization Boko Haram is kidnapping and killing innocent women and children in northern Africa. And that's just the list of the horribles from just the last few weeks. You see, ideas have consequences. Decisions have consequences, and that's why elections matter. President Obama and Hillary Clinton do not understand what works and what does not work in the real world of real bad guys. They believe in fantasy foreign policy, where their good intentions somehow equal success. Well, it's time for a real strategy and not a time for fantasy foreign policy. The Obama administration is continuing to thumb its nose at our strongest ally in the world, our friend Israel. The nightmare scenario of a terrorist neighbor on Israel's doorstep through the unity government of Hamas and Fatah is now a reality. That means Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood, violent terrorist organization with American blood on its hands, will become a member of the Palestinian Authority. You see, it was just last week, after our president released the 5 worst terrorists, the 5 top operational leaders of our sworn enemy, the Taliban, when he released those in exchange for Bo Bergdahl, it was just within a week that Hamas, this terror organization, kidnapped 3 innocent Jewish teenagers near Hebron who were looking for a ride home from school. One of these kids is an American citizen from New York City. Official Fatah publications not only celebrated these kidnappings, they compared these 3 young boys to rats who were being reeled in by a fishing pole. And Barack Obama thinks Israel should be forced to give more land to people who want to exterminate all Jews. My friends, this is what it means to stand with Israel. And quite simply, the United States of America cannot remain silent about the rise of anti-Semitism across the globe and even in our own backyard. Caroline Glick, the great senior columnist of the Jerusalem Post, wrote a wonderful column this week. In her column, she spoke about this rise of anti-Semitism across the globe, including in New York City, where the Metropolitan Opera is running a production called The Death of Klinghoffer. It is a sympathetic portrayal of terrorism against the Jewish people. It is the story of a disabled senior citizen, American Jewish individual who was in a wheelchair, who terrorists chose because of his Jewish background. They took Mr. Klinghoffer, Leon Klinghoffer, in his wheelchair and threw him off the cruise ship he was on with his wife, and in cold blood murdered him. And now the Metropolitan Opera is running a production sympathetic to the terrorists who did this action. Do we understand that we are now living in a new age of insane anti-Semitism? Will we respond to this? We cannot let this go unaddressed. The path that our president has us on is truly transforming America into a country that we no longer recognize. His path is smothering the American dream at home and projecting weakness abroad. But what I do know as I look out at all of you is this: that is not your view of America. Not here at home and not abroad. It's not my view of America. And that's what gives me hope, because I know without a shadow of a doubt, as you look across the United States, and people are scared to death today, so much so that 2 police officers approached me the day before yesterday. I was minding my own business, walking from a vote at the Capitol to my office in Rayburn, and they came up to me, they recognized who I was, and they said, "Mrs. Bachmann, I don't know what's happening down at the White House, but you and your colleagues have got to do something in the United States Congress. You can no longer be silent. You got to stand up for us. You've got to stand up for America. You've got to start doing the right thing. You can't let this president prevail. Because if there's one thing we know about Americans, it is this: Americans love America. And they expect that the people that they worked and sweat to put in office will stand up for them and stand against the insanity that's coming out of the White House today. Will you do that? I will do that. And I fully believe, with our trust in our hand in the living God, the creator God of the ages, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the Counselor, the all-wise, the all-seeing, the holy God of the universe, with our trust in Him, even in times like today, it is not over. It is not too late. He says that He is there. He is available at any moment. We pick up the phone, we call, we cry out, and He is there for us. He is the one that will deliver with His strong right arm. And with that, I say amen and amen. God bless you, and enjoy your weekend.